Hello everyone and welcome back to the Simpson Associates YouTube channel and our big analytics query. Today we are joined by Iain. Iain, welcome to the show. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone?
Will do. Thank you, Tom. My name's Iain Robins. I'm lead consultant at Simpson Associates in the application development team with a specialism in integration.
Which is very helpful because, of course, that's what we're talking about today. We're going to be looking at all things integration. So firstly, what are integrations? What do we mean by that term?
Well, it is a fairly broad term, so obviously you can cover a heck of a lot of things to a heck of a lot of people. In my mind, there's kind of two main sides to it. So you've got pure sort of data migration, so data pipelines, ETL processes, batch jobs, moving large amounts of data around to combine data together to sort of form, a way of reporting, to give you a combined view of your data. The other side of that, I would say, is what I specialise more in, is application integration. So taking disparate applications and making them work together. You have a lot of enterprises, you previously would have big, hulking, great ERP systems that would do every single thing for a company. But in recent years, there's been a lot more SaaS platforms that do individual jobs very well. So you have companies now with a lot of products everywhere doing niche things very well that then have to talk all together. So previously, when you had this big, hulking, integrated system, it was all there in the same database, so everything was fine. But now having applications that are much more niche and suited to your needs has then increased the need to then make these applications work together, which is, where there is a lot of focus now.
So much better for a company that it can have all those individual ones and take bits from here and bits from there, but actually piecing it together is a bit of a problem sometimes.
It's the challenge, yes. It requires, a lot of thought. So you can end up with people who link things, directly together. So you end up with a integration from point to point. So you say, right, I'll make my CRM system talk to my sales system, and you link them together by one process, one script, one piece of functionality that does that, which is fine if that's all you're going to do. But then you get rapidly into problems when you have to try and scale that.
And I guess that's the classic. You start somewhere and then you're kind of patching bits on top.
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's talk more about those integrations and how do they work? What are some key features of them? How do you get that link going?
Well, that depends, again, what technology you're dealing with. So if you're doing sort of more data pipeline stuff, you're doing more sort of traditional ETL processes, you're moving large amounts of data around with Azure Data Factory or SQL Server integration services or something similar. That's the biggest challenge, really, is sort of recognizing what it is that you're trying to integrate, what the needs of that requirement are, and then matching it to the technology to use. So on the other side of that sort of application integration, there are kind of large pre-built sort of integrations as a service platforms, such as Boomies or MuleSofts, which are very specialised in what they do. The promise for them was that you'd have business users creating integrations and doing things. I don't think that's quite panned out. You seem to still end up with companies having to hire experts within those systems to work on the integrations. What we kind of have specialised in more, or I specialised in more especially, is sort of Azure integration services. So that's like a suite of cloud-based components that kind of simplify integrating solutions together. So things like an Azure Service Bus for messaging, so you can disconnect applications from each other and communicate them all through messaging on like a service bus. So again, all the major cloud platforms have that kind of service. But
And do you have any examples of where that's worked particularly well?
I mean, it can work on anything. Any place you've got like a large estate of SaaS applications, it's a great solution because you can kind of the components are so integrated together. They work so well together that you can just sort of pick up the bits you need for. And again, it's start small. You only need to start on a small part and then build out from there. I've worked in lots of. I've even worked in a bank before where we were building a banking platform based on SaaS applications and using Azure integration services kind of to tie all the banking together. So it's a very robust.
And it has that flexibility, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we like a pros and cons list. What are the benefits that we get with the integrations?
Well,
done this way.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the benefits straight away. The biggest thing with integration is you're usually replacing some sort of manual service. So something you're doing
Yeah.
is replacing something that someone is doing, a human usually.
And a constant manual, boring
constant
that we
manual
don't need to
process.
be doing.
Exactly. So the great thing about it is you're always onto a winner. Anything that you can deliver that's better than what's there now is usually a big bonus.
And if that bar's nice and low,
Then,
you
yeah,
suddenly look great with less effort.
Yeah. So, but so yeah, the automation is a big part of it. It's the taking that laborious process off someone. It's someone who has to log into one application to then turn around, log into the next one, copy the data between the two. That's obviously a big benefit straight away. You also get, by removing the human element from those processes, you straight away improve your accuracy. So you're going to have less problems. You're going to have less manual errors, anything like that.
And even just little things of like, if that person goes on annual leave, what happens to the person?
So yeah, it's a great way you can build up larger applications from smaller ones as well. That's sort of what you can end up with a whole platform of services that interact from component parts.
And are there any things to be aware of on the converse, like common pitfalls that people fall into when starting out with integrations?
Yep, quite a few really. I mean, as I said before, sort of the point-to-point thing, it certainly works. You can deliver benefits straight away by just wiring two things together. Problem is then you wire four things together, 16, and then you change one thing and you've got to change 16 places. So yeah, there's understanding that complexity, and it's also planning when you start out that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a hulking great platform, framework, architecture, whatever you want to call it. You just have to kind of think with a mindset that approaches it in a disconnected fashion. It's not all point A to point B. Other than that, a lot of mistakes people make is sort of not thinking about traceability in the system.
Yeah.
So, you'll say, when I place an order, I want an order created in the warehouse system. I want sales to be told there's a sale going through. I want my accounting software, all these various transactions that can start from one thing. The problem you can then get is if you don't trace those distributed communications, you're going to end up in a hell of a mess trying to work out where something went wrong, and it will be guaranteed that something somewhere will go wrong. It's especially amplified in distributed systems because you're introducing like network communications into that process as well, which is always
fun with the firewalls and everything. So what about any tools that you've got for implementing this?
Again, it depends. It depends. Everyone loves that answer.
Yeah.
It depends in IT. But yeah, it depends on what problem you're trying to solve again. So, if you're looking for a data pipeline thing, Azure Data Factory, integration services, even sort of, again, there, you can kind of break it down more into the type of things you're doing. If you want something very lightweight, you're building your first integration, say you don't want to splash out on expensive components or complicated ones, you can use something simple like Azure Table Storage, Queue Storage. That's very simple to set up, very flexible, and actually pretty good, and I would say almost free to run. For more enterprise-grade stuff, you've got sort of Service Bus there. Then, again, sort of like right up to the sort of IoT type stuff where you're looking like event hubs, which is processing millions of events.
Are there any particular things you would recommend people to think about before choosing which one of those tools is best for them to work out what suits their solution?
Yep, it's kind of decisions you have to make. Sort of, what do you require? Sort of ordered delivery, say, of the messages that are coming in. Do you require sort of low code solutions? Or do you want to have sort of less development time, or do you require sort of massively customizable stuff that you need to be completely in control of? So there's lots of different sort of questions to ask yourself and work out what's best for the problem you're trying to solve.
And what about getting started with these tools? Maybe you've never done it before or just starting out on the implementing of the integrations. Where would you start? How would you begin?
Well, I think, as we said, that you need to try to avoid, if you can, point to point. You need to try to resist that temptation. It's looking at sort of the simpler tools. And if you take, for example, a Logic app, which kind of can do the workflow orchestration for you, there's a lot of built-in connectors there. You can connect to a lot of systems straight out of the box. Very flexible type thing, sort of step-by-step workflow, visual designer, no-code solution. That's a good place to get started. That will certainly get you going on sort of integrations. In terms of sort of the disconnecting element and message based, as I mentioned, like storage queues, very simple, flexible technology for moving messages between components. So yeah, there's lots of components there. You really don't need to reinvent the wheel with it.
It's all there.
It's all
So
there.
use what's
It's all
there.
done for you. A lot of integration sort of best practices and patterns are kind of baked into these solutions already. So it's just a case of trying things out. And as I said, a lot of them look at consumption sort of tier based things. It's basically free until you hit a certain level. So there's a lot. Just get out there and experiment with it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. If you've got any questions about anything that we said, let us know in the comments below and we'll include some links to some of the resources mentioned as well. But thank you for watching. Thank you for your expertise.
No problem.
And we'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Bye.